they regulate the interstitial rather than the intravascular compartment. In heart failure patients, we know that there is significant interstitial edema if we do cardiac MRI. And by reducing the interstitial volume without reducing the intravascular volume, as opposed to loop diuretics, it actually limits the neurohormonal reflex stimulation that you get with excess loop diuretics. So this is very important in how it differentiates itself from a mechanistic standpoint. Ultimately, though, whatever the mechanism is, whether it's the cellular hydrogen exchange or bioenergetics or interstitial edema, the ventricle is subjected to less preload, less afterload, and less wall stress, and the renal function is also significantly improved. So the spectrum of the SGLT2 efficacy from the randomized clinical studies has gone from patients with multiple risk factors who have never had an event to patients who have had a cardiovascular event in the secondary prevention population. And in this, the most robust outcome is, in fact, reduction of heart failure and renal protection. The impact on atherosclerotic events is significant only in patients who had a prior myocardial infarction. Now, reminding you of this, empagliflozin reduced heart failure 35% on top of standard of care. And if you look at the DECLARE study, the majority of the patients who had no established ASCVD, they simply had multiple risk factors, they had less severe CKD, they had a less degree of microalbuminuria, and these patients, significant. There is a benefit of MACE only in patients with a prior MI. Those with no prior MI had no benefit. However, heart failure was remarkable. Again, almost a 20% reduction of heart failure hospitalization, and the greatest benefit was a significant reduction of heart failure in the diabetic population. Now, one of the things that you have to remember is that none of these studies were actually heart failure studies. These were CVOTs. And less than 10% of patients in all these studies had heart failure with ejection fraction less than 40%. Yet, a 30 to 40% reduction of heart failure occurred. This is the prevention of unrecognized or nascent heart failure as well.